Welcome back to the Go to Go podcast, man. Episode 101. Last division breakdown. We got the North divisions in the AFC and the NFC, man. And then we're going to jump into some of our picks for season awards this year. Let's get it started. Let's go NFC North. I'll let you kick it off in the NFC.
All right, so we're gonna start from worst to first again, right? So
Yeah, worst to first.
Yeah. Okay. Coming in at fourth place for the NFC North, I got the Vikings, man. I'm pretty sure we're gonna agree on this one. I got them about 5 wins. I don't think they'll be a competitive team, and it really just comes down to me not being a Sam Darnold believer. I know you being a Dolphins fan, all those games against the Jets and stuff, not the most impressive performances. And he comes out the whole seeing ghosts on the field thing, just not a good look. That's just one of those things that always sticks with you. So, I mean, he's done the right things in the past couple years. You go to one of those high-powered offenses. He was over there with the 49ers, got the Shanahan experience. So now it's his career revived, kind of like what Baker did. He went to the Rams. He got into that McVay tree, got coached up, and now he's a starter with the Bucs. So maybe Sam Darnold can do something similar, but I just think Baker is a better quarterback at this point. Sam Darnold, I think we just kind of know what it is at this point. Maybe he won't be, like the worst starting quarterback, but, I mean, top 20 maybe at most. Not really too much to get excited there. Was some momentum, was some buzz and excitement around J.J. McCarthy. His first preseason game looked really good, looked sharp. Unfortunate injury. He's out for the season, so now – it seemed like injuries all off season for this Vikings team. A tough division. We'll talk about these teams ahead of them. I think these 3 teams we're about to talk about in this division are going to be good teams. So tough for them to find wins there in division. You got Jay Jetta's best receiver in the league, arguably. But like I mentioned, it just all comes back down to Sam Darnold, who's getting him the ball. I like the defense. They can be feisty. Brian Flores, maybe not the best people person according to Tua, but he can coach a pretty solid defense. So I think they'll be competitive there in his blitz happy scheme. But yeah, I just don't think there's too much upside here with this Minnesota team.
No, I agree. Flores, great defensive mind. Only comment, I don't know what he does inside an organization, but yeah, Vikings, my notes were very, very short, man. I got them at 5 wins too, bottom of the division, coming in dead last in the NFC North. Sam Darnold, question mark. That's what I put. Shout out to Darnold, though. Last year, he won me my fantasy football semifinal by throwing to Brandon Ayuk down the stretch when Purdy got hurt. So shout out to him. Always remember him for that. But, I mean, they pick up Aaron Jones, stays in-house in the division. Nice pickup. They got some solid weapons. Obviously, Jay Jet's, if not the best, one of the best on the outside. And then you got Speed Demon Jordan Addison. He's been, battling some injuries. So they got some weapons, but how far can Sam Darnold take them? Defense, they'll be all right, but they'll be on the field most of the game, I believe. So nothing too much when you're not a top 5 defense to carry teams to wins. I think they could get 5 wins. But, yeah, after the J.J. McCarthy injury sort of just went momentum and kind of hype around this Vikings team, it died down, and rightfully so, because we've seen Sam Darnold before in New York. Not too much in San Fran, but, yeah, I mean, 5 wins for the Vikings. That's where I got them.
All right. I have the Bears coming out third place with about 8 wins. I'm a Caleb Williams believer, always rocking with Team Light Skin. Showed a lot of flashes during preseason. You saw the big plays, the scrambling ability. He looked the part. He's looked like, he's going to be the real deal and live up to that number 1 pick. Solid weapon group around him. Maybe I think these guys might be getting a little overhyped in terms of how good they really are. DJ Moore, I think he's a solid, outside receiver. A lot of run after catch ability. Keenan Allen, there's reports that he's showing up to camp 30 pounds overweight. Just kind of looks a little slower now at this point in his career, in this stage. But, I mean, in terms of route running, creating separation, sitting in those zones, getting open, veteran presence, Keenan Allen's always been elite at those things. Just seems like he kind of lost a step. And you look at the running game. I mean, Swift coming over from Philly, running behind maybe one of the best O lines in the league, a great run blocking O line with the Eagles. Not too sure if the Bears are gonna have that, same feel. So some question marks there on offense, but I definitely think it's a solid enough weapon group to be competitive. If you're a rookie quarterback, this is one of the best kind of places you can come to in terms of having help around you. So I think they'll be good on that side of the ball. And then defensively, this is kind of the sneaky part of this team, what made them so competitive last year. I think they have playmakers at all three levels of this defense. You look at Jalen Johnson in the secondary. I'm a big TJ Edwards guy. He was one of the better linebackers on Philly when they went to the Super Bowl. I've talked about how important he was on this podcast many times, and he's gone, and you see how our defense and linebackers have looked these past couple years. So, and then Montez Sweat, give him a full season in this scheme. Led the team in sacks coming over at the trade deadline last year. So I'm sure the Bears are looking forward to having him the whole 17 games this year. So I think this is a really good defense, and then a solid enough offense with a young and up and coming quarterback. And I think 8 wins will be a pretty good season for the Bears if Caleb Williams looks solid.
Yeah, I got the Bears in third at 7 wins on the year. Justin Fields, his time in Chicago, they finally get some outside help to their quarterback now, Caleb Williams. Obviously, they brought DJ Moore in last year. Still had a fantastic season, even with his rotating room of quarterbacks that he had. So we know he could get it done on the outside. You had Keenan Allen, as you mentioned, draft Odunze as well on the outside to help Caleb Williams. And he's got 3 viable weapons to help him out. But DeAndre Swift, you said it, his time in Philly, his time even in Detroit after his rookie season, I don't think he was ever utilized correctly. I think Swift can be a solid RB1 in this league, not elite. I think he could be good if utilized correctly with a good workload. We'll see, obviously not as good as an O-line as Philly. There's some question marks on this Bears. A little spotty, but they got help. Jalen Johnson on the back end. I think he's an elite DB. If not top 5, he's definitely top 10. He's underrated on the outside because he mainly plays in Chicago, and this team hasn't been good in a very long time. I mean, they went to the playoffs with Trubisky. It was a fluke, whatever. So I got the Bears 7 wins on the year. I think it's maybe they get 6, 7, but I'm a believer in Caleb Williams. I think he's going to be elite. Don't understand the doubters, but I think he'll be just fine. Give this team another year. I think they could be competing in the North pretty soon with the franchise guy like Caleb.
All right, top 2. I think this is where it gets interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think we probably both have the same top 2 teams, but might not be consensus. I got the Lions coming in at second place with I got them at like 10 wins. The Lions playing competent football for multiple seasons in a row seems so bizarre because it just hasn't happened our entire lives. Coming off of an NFC Championship appearance last year, I think this team takes a small step back. But, I mean, if this Lions team goes out and gets 12, 13 wins, it wouldn't surprise me. 10 wins is kind of like closer to the middle of their floor. Yeah. But I think they're going to be competitive, man. Goff in this offense continues to be explosive. Jared Goff, in that dome, he'll put up the numbers. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the most solid, sure-handed receivers in the league, just consistent in the slot and outside. Maybe we get the Jameson Williams breakout finally, year 3, not suspended, not injured. So everything's lined up in perfect there. And then, this run game, you have Jahmyr Gibbs, Montgomery, he's solid behind arguably one of the best O-lines in football. This offense is going to be explosive, and I think they continue to put up the big numbers. And then defensively, they drafted 2 corners early in the draft, I believe, with their first 2 picks. So addressing their primary concerns on that defensive side of the ball. You got Aiden Hutchinson there on the defensive line. He'll get after the quarterback. So some pieces I like there on the defensive side of the ball. This Lions will be a good team. I got them in at about 10 wins right here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Lions 10 wins on the season. It's like you looked at my notes or something. But you mentioned the defense. It's spotty. They added some pieces. Teron Arnold on the outside being the main guy. So that was the big question mark last year. You had Hutch, who balled out, for the Lions, but Jared Goff, you mentioned in the dome. We know he could play inside. Good weather conditions, he'll be just fine. But playing in that north late in the season, when it gets cold, when it gets snowy, when it gets rainy in Chicago, it's going to be tough for the Lions to get those road victories. So 10 wins, I could definitely see them going over. I like Montgomery, Gibbs, but I believe that if the Lions truly want to unlock everything, Gibbs got to be the featured back when the season, gets to the back end. I expect Gibbs to get his workload up. I know Dan Campbell really hasn't done that last year, reducing his touches, keeping him healthy on the field. We'll see what he does with Jahmyr Gibbs. It's going to be interesting. Will we see some two-back sets? And then the weapons on the outside. You mentioned Amon-Ra, who played all season last year, hurt. Absolutely doesn't get the recognition. He's elite on the outside, a true wide receiver one. You got the best rookie tight end in Sam Laporta last year, who balled out as well. And then you mentioned Jameson Williams. We know his speed on the outside. When he came into this league, what type of guy he was. Does he unlock his true potential in year 3? Like you said, not suspended, not hurt, got the full off season. He's locked in. We'll see what the Lions are able to do. Golf, not a big downfield arm, but expect a couple explosive plays. Jameson Williams gets behind those DBs. It could be scary for the Lions, man. I don't think, like you said, they go as far as they did last year, but they definitely can, and they make a run. With this team, especially with those weapons. I think they got one of the best weapon rooms in the NFC North, and they're definitely up there with this other team. Obviously the Packers are left.
Yeah, Packers. I got the Packers winning the division, and I think the Packers they're one of these teams that can make a legit run in terms of, conference championship aspirations. When you look at this team, Jordan Love, towards the end of the year, kind of like after the bye, towards the middle of the season, it's like a light just switched and turned on, and Jordan Love was playing elite football. You saw what he did, Thanksgiving against this Lions team in the playoff against the Cowboys, came out big statement win. Those are just a couple of the better games he had later in the season in his first year starting as a quarterback. So I think Jordan Love goes out and he continues to ascend a plethora of weapons on the outside. I mean, you can go 4 deep, name all of those guys, and they all have a special skill set, special utilization. They've all flashed so far in the league. So you got the options on the outside, 2 tight ends coming back for their second year, just more experience. And then defensively, there's some questions, especially new defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley coming over from Boston College. But outside of the scheme, you just look at the players on that roster on the defensive side of the ball. They have talent all over, a bunch of first-round picks, D-line, and the linebackers, even in the secondary. So they have guys that are capable of making plays. And then you look at, bringing in Josh Jacobs, free agent acquisition, or did they trade for him? I can't remember. I just know they brought him in this offseason. But I think it'll be a nice complementary piece to Jordan Love, a nice change of pace, because this Packers team with LaFleur, with Jordan Love and what he's shown, and all these weapons, they're going to be throwing the ball a bunch. So I think Josh Jacobs will be an efficient runner. Might not get the volume and some of, the touches he had over there in Vegas where, led the league in rushing, all these carries and stuff like that. I think it'll be more of a change of pace kind of situation for him, just because when you have a team like this for the Packers, I think they're just set up to throw the ball and attack down the field. So I think this will be a fun, explosive team to watch. And, yeah, I got them winning the division with about 12 wins.
Yeah, I got the Packers 11 wins on the year, winning the division. I'm high on Jordan Love. Won me my fantasy championship last year. Really came on second half. They looked good and strong to start off the season, sort of slowed down. Then they found a groove. Receivers on the outside are healthy. You mentioned you can name them all: Watson, Reed, Dobbs. All 3 of those guys I think could be stars in this league. Josh Jacobs, you mentioned maybe not the same workload as it was in Vegas 2 years ago when he won the rushing title. A solid receiving back who can get it done both on the ground and through the air. RB2, A.J. Dillon, out for the season today. You mentioned the defense. They got some names, but sort of spotty. We'll see if they can make plays down the stretch, fourth quarter, if they could get some stops. But I'm high on this Packers team, man. You mentioned the 2 tight ends. Both of them got the job done last year when Musgrave went down. they picked up the slack. There's no holes on that offense when it comes to the weapons in the Packers, and it's just going to be up to Jordan Love at the end of the day. What can they do with Jay Love unlocking his true potential? We saw flashes of last year when he beat those Cowboys in the playoffs and really just beat down and embarrassed, America's team on national television when the lights were bright. Classic for the Cowboys. I know you love that one. So got the Packers winning this division, but I think them and the Lions could flip-flop, and there'd be no issue in the top two, I think.
All right. Moving on to the AFC North.
Yep.
This is your division, so I'll let you start it off.
All right, man. Well, AFC North, best division in football, I believe. We're going to get it started, man. All teams over 500. Didn't want to do it, but in classic Steelers fashion, they come in fourth, 9-8, man. Keeping Mike Tomlin, good, above 500 per usual, outside of, their quarterback situation. They got a solid team. You got Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, sort of had a quarterback battle, but Justin Fields fell off. They really don't think it's a battle. It's going to be Russ QB1. The defense, we know they can win games on their own. They're elite. They got pass rushers, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, not the best, but he's top 3 in the league when it comes to rushing the passers and disrupting quarterback. So then you look at the DB room, they're good, they're solid. Back end, obviously, you got dirty Mika back there and whatnot. But you look at the offense, they lose Deontay Johnson, a big part of their weapon room the past few years. It's sort of just like GP and then what else? They got Najee, not really a firm believer in him. Jalen Warren, what can he do? We'll see with that weapon room. We know the defense is going to be good. I think they're going to be good enough to carry them in some games. What can Russ do, obviously, as well. But we'll see with the Steelers, man. Sort of a big question mark, especially, Russ, who had some down years, but then he looked up towards the end of last year. We'll see what he's got left in the tank, and if not, if Justin Fields touches the field in a better situation than he was in Chicago, we'll see what he can do. But outside of that, man, it's just that defense that can really carry them, and we saw it last year and years past. So,
Well, I guess I'm lower on the Steelers than the D1 Steelers hater, which is crazy. I got the Steelers also coming in at last, but I got them at about 7 wins.
7. I almost gave them 8, but I thought I was hating.
Yeah, there's just a circus going on right now at quarterback in terms of Fields. Fields, like you mentioned, up and down, hasn't really just been able to put it together so far in his career at the quarterback position. And then Russell Wilson coming in to camp banged up, wasn't able to get a lot of the reps to begin with, so he's coming in a little behind. You mentioned it, outside of George Pickens, really no immediate threats or receiving weapons on the outside. Solid 1-2 punch in the backfield. I like Najee and Jalen Warren. I think they do complement each other really well. And Arthur Smith there now as the offensive coordinator, so they're both going to just get the ball probably the entire game. I agree with you. I do think this defense will be physical and competitive like they always are under Tomlin. But for me, just too many question marks on the offensive side of the ball. Also, a young O-line, some of those guys still trying to put it together. And then when you have guys like Russell Wilson and Justin Fields behind them, I just don't think they're going to be too competitive on that side of the ball. So, yeah, Mike Tomlin's first losing season of his career, 7 wins.
Wow. Third place, excuse me. The so loved and behold blonde hair boy Joe Burrow and the Bengals, they go 9-8 as well. And I mean, Joe Mixon out of Cincinnati, Zach Moss RB1. I wasn't high on Joe Mixon at this point in his career. Zach Moss, not a step up. He's a downgrade, but by how much? Maybe a good little bit. They had Mike Gesicki, former Dolphins tight end. What does he really have? Can his, true draft potential be unlocked? In Cincinnati, we'll see, Jamar Chase looking at those contracts that are getting paid out over there by CeeDee Lamb. He wants a new deal. T. Higgins, he's not, quite the happiest receiver on the outside as well. But yeah, can Burrow stay healthy? The past few years hasn't really been able to. O-line was a question mark when he came into the league. They tried to address it. We'll see. The defense, they got Trey Hendrickson. It's really spotty on the defensive side of the ball. So they're going to have to put up some points if they want to win a lot of games. It's going to be up to this offense. And can Burrow and Chase get back, to their old ways where that might have been the best quarterback wide receiver duo when they first came into the league. But I got them at 9 wins. I think it's solid. I mean, I'd have them at more, but they're going to lose a lot of games to divisional opponents, I'll tell you that.
All right. I think you know where this is going. Coming in at 3rd place with 9 wins, the Cleveland Browns. Now, I'm going to start off positive. This is a very talented roster. Maybe a name from this team will get mentioned later on in the show when we talk about season awards. It's possible. You look at the defensive side of the ball. Pass rush is there. Secondary, I'm intrigued. They got a lot of guys on the outside. Sticky man coverage, Denzel Ward, Martin Emerson. You've been high on him. And Greg Newsome. A lot of talent there. Some talented safeties as well. Sideline to sideline guys. In the linebacker crew. So I like their defense. One of the best in the league. They make it hard for those guys. Jim Schwartz and that scheme and the way he coaches those guys up, it's going to be good. And then you look at offensively, when healthy, one of the better O-lines. We were just talking about, some injury concerns before the show. But even still, down the stretch, it's a solid unit. Backfield, when is Nick Chubb getting back? Big question mark. But, behind that offensive line, I think guys like Jerome Ford, like Devontae Foreman.
He just got cut.
Oh, they just released him? Well, never mind. Well, Ford still, showed some good flashes last year until Chubb gets back healthy. And then the receiving room, I know this is probably, what you're most excited about. You get Jerry Jeudy, also kind of waiting for him to show it. Amari Cooper proven he can be, a number 1 receiver in this league. And then Njoku came on last year. Kind of finally feels like he had the season he should have been having, his entire career, where a big athletic tight end taking advantage of the mismatches on defense. So I kind of like everything on this roster except the quarterback. It's a prove-it year for Deshaun Watson. Like, I just feel like we kind of know what he is at this point. It's a legit question mark. I don't think we're going to ever see the Deshaun Watson we saw a couple years ago back when he was on Houston. Questions coming into the season that he was, last year he got banged up. When he played, wasn't one of the better quarterbacks in terms of accuracy and the way he was playing. And then now, coming out of camp, there's already reports of him being banged up. Didn't get to see him much during preseason and training camp. So it's just a big question mark. Like, I feel like last year I was a lot higher and willing to say, all right, Deshaun Watson can get back to, the elite quarterback, one of the best QBs, top 5 QBs in the league that we saw down in Houston, battling, Josh Allen in the playoffs. But after last year, it's kind of just like, I just really don't see it, man. I don't see a way Deshaun Watson is the answer for this team at quarterback. Now, miraculously, if he goes off on a whim and he has a perfect year and he's fully healthy and they get that, Houston Texans Deshaun Watson, then yeah, bro, you got it. You guys win 12 games, 13 games, and make a deep playoff run. But in reality, I just don't see it, man. I think Watson's cooked. So yeah, 9 wins, and this is just based off of defense and some of those guys making plays on offense. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of another situation like last year where down the stretch, someone else besides Deshaun Watson is leading this team for a hopeful playoff run.
All right. Pierre Strong and Nyheim Hines are their other running backs on the roster, by the way. 3rd place, man. I got the Baltimore Ravens with 10 wins. Lamar Jackson coming off his 2nd MVP, drop weight. Your boy that you spoke so highly of a few weeks ago, Mike McDonald, he's out of Baltimore. We'll see. They got Derrick Henry, King Henry. What's he got left in the tank? He's getting up there in age, and his workload, not just in the NFL, dating back all the way to college. outside Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, maybe Rashad Bateman. I think Flowers is good. I think Andrews is great at his position. He's been banged up, but are the weapons on the outside good enough for the Ravens? Lamar threw the ball a lot more last year than as opposed to when he first came into the league, and he was running everywhere. Dropped some weight. Maybe he gets back to, being a little bit more mobile on the ground, Lamar Jackson that we've seen in the past. So will he be able to stay healthy at that point? We'll see. Linebackers, I mean, they're good. They paid Roquan. He got his money. They're getting Kyle Van Noy, veteran presence. So the defense, you had Kyle Hamilton, one of the best safeties in the league, if not the best. Ravens defense is going to be fine, even with McDonald gone, I think. So we'll see what the Ravens got. I got them 10 wins. I might get 11. But regardless, I got them coming in second place in the AFC North.
Coming in second place for me, I have the Cincinnati Bengals, and this is with the asterisk. Like, if Joe Burrow can actually throw a football, then yeah, I got him coming in at second place with 11 wins. I feel like we kind of know what this Bengals team is at this point. If Burrow's healthy, you kind of touched on it. All of those weapons, I mean, the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase connection, like you mentioned, can be one of, if not the best quarterback receiver hookups in the league. So there's potential there. Defensively, there are some concerns. Not the best year for them last year. Some questions against the run, but I think they step it up. And if Joe Burrow's back 100% healthy, he's one of, if you want to say he's the second best quarterback after Mahomes, I think you have a legit argument for that. So if he's back healthy, playing as one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, regardless of how this roster looks, I think you're looking to be a competitive team. And I think they have the weapons on the outside to do it. You mentioned T. Higgins, Gesicki. I kind of like that addition in terms of being a receiving option for Joe Burrow. One of those, hybrid tight ends. He'll probably line up in a slot a bunch as well. I do think Mixon missing in that running game will be a question mark, but they bring in Zach Moss, a capable running back. We've seen him have some success. And then Chase Brown, I believe, backing him up, an explosive guy that showed some flashes last year. So I think they have enough on offense to kind of get things done. And I think as long as Joe Burrow is healthy, this Bengals team has, deep playoff aspirations. So, yeah, I got the Bengals at 11 wins.
That's crazy, them getting 11 wins, because you know how many wins Joe Burrow has against the Cleveland Browns in his career?
How many?
1-5 against the Cleveland Browns. They own the Ohio rival, and that's who I got. First place, 11 wins.
It's not a 2-game season.
The Cleveland Browns. But man, it's two losses you might as well chalk up on the schedule for Joey B. Because Cleveland owns him. He looks like a lost ghost. And then I didn't even mention the thumb that they say he might not be able to grip a football properly ever again. Cleveland Browns, man. Let's start with that back-end DB room. First off, this team is banged up coming into this season. A lot of guys on the injury report. But when it comes to corners, not just corners, DB room as a whole, best in the league, man. Martin Emerson, highly underrated on the outside. And his man-to-man, you mentioned sticky ability on the outside. He's locked down. Denzel Ward, obviously, question marks about his concussion history, now having a 5th one in the league. Greg Newsome on the outside. He said he's playing week 1,000%. Going to be in the slot most of the time. He can move outside. He was an outside guy before Emerson. He'll be out there. Another great corner. Grant Delpit, after his injured rookie year, he showed out last year, showed great flashes down in the box and over the top. Super Bowl champ Juan Thornhill from the Kansas City Chiefs, second year over in Cleveland and in the system. He's elite. Not elite. He's good. Then you get to the linebackers. JOK doesn't get his love. One of the best sideline-to-sideline linebackers in this league. They add Devin Bush. A lot of speed at linebacker now between him and JOK. Those guys can fly. JOK, the only one that showed up in that playoff game against the Texans. Just turn on the film. You'll see him almost in every play, every backfield, TFLs, hitting all the gaps, all the right reads at the linebacker position. So that's one of the guys I love, and I don't even have to mention, DPOYMG. You know what he's going to do. get after the quarterback. Dalvin Tomlinson now, up the middle, helping stop that run game. I like the D-line, per usual, in the pass rushes. Darius Smith, Ogbo on the outside as well. All good, man. And obviously Nick Chubb, his health at the running back position, we'll see. You mentioned weapons on the outside. Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, and Njoku, his best season as an NFL player, finally unlocking his true potential last year in a big athletic tight end, taking advantage of mismatches, and finally being able to show he can do contested catches as well. That was a problem with his drops all along in his career, but came down with a lot of contested catches, a lot of run after the catch, getting past the defenders. And then you mentioned it's just going to come down to quarterback, man. Deshaun Watson, obviously playing no preseason games. But I think he's here to prove the doubters wrong. I mean, all this money invested into him, I have to believe in it. Because if I don't, might as well just turn the whole season off and just forget about it and chalk it up, man. And I think, while he didn't play the best ball when he was healthy last year, he was still banged up. Just turned on that Ravens game, made all the right reads, come back in Baltimore at M&T Bank before he went down with the season-ending injury. We'll see if we can get that Deshaun Watson, that competitor, solid, good, top 12 quarterback that he might have been in that game. The Browns can go very far in a deep playoff run. Maybe not the top 5 quarterback like you mentioned, but it's going to be up to Deshaun Watson and how far he could take this team because, other than that, it's going to be Jameis Winston, DTR. He's had a great preseason. He's great camp. Tyler Huntley, it's going to be what DW4 could do. So we'll see what Deshaun Watson, man. Obviously, I'm not picking him for MVP this year in my preseason polls, but I think he'll be all right, man. And I think he proves everybody wrong, man. And quiets out the noise here for the Cleveland Browns, man.
So how many wins?
11.
11? Okay.
2 against the Bengals.
All right. Well, it's last year you had them at 15 or something like that.
I think it was
glad we took a step back.
Yeah, I came
more
in
realistic. All right. And so then I got the Ravens coming in first at 12 wins. Now this is, a regular season standing, so we don't have to worry about Lamar in the postseason. And I think it's time, he steps up. He has the MVPs. He has the regular season success. We just got to see him do it in the postseason, but that's, another conversation later down the line. We'll talk about that once that, gets closer, becomes relevant. But in terms of regular season and, what this team is capable of throughout the 17, 18 weeks of football that they're going to be playing, I think this can be one of the better teams. We saw how good they could be last year. You touched on the loss of defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald. I think that'll be really big. But, he's implemented a lot of stuff over there. It's kind of a culture. So I think we'll see a lot of the same stuff with a lot of the same players still there. I think he kind of, even though he left the team, he's left his mark on that organization and kind of how they want to run things. So I think it'll be very similar, a lot of the same terminology, a lot of the same things that made this defense successful. And, you still got Harbaugh there, so a lot of things will stay the same. You just lose that mind outside of the building, which is going to be tough. But I think this defense will still be good enough. And I like the addition of Derrick Henry. When it first happened, I kind of just, rolled my eyes and it was like, it's a whatever move. But as, time goes on and as we get closer to the season, I think this addition will be a really big one for this offense. It's not like Greg Roman's there anymore, so they're just going to run the ball all the time. But when you look at a run game that has someone like Lamar Jackson, who's super explosive, one of the hardest players to, kind of contain in the open field, and then you add someone like Derrick Henry, who is just a bruising, powerful, punishing running back, it's like, in between the 20s, you can just let Lamar run around and do that stuff, control the offense. But once you get down in the red zone, Derrick Henry is going to do what he does best, is just get into the end zone. Super hard guy to bring down. So I think they'll become a lot more efficient in the red zone with the addition of someone like Derrick Henry, who, like I said, just brings a lot more variety in terms of a run game because, the past couple seasons, it was Gus Edwards or J.K. Dobbins, Justice Hill, it's just a bunch of random running backs who, you don't really expect much from. You put in someone like Derrick Henry, And, maybe you don't give him, 20, 25 touches a game like he did in Tennessee because you have some other options here. But if you give Derrick Henry, about 15 carries a game beginning, and then ramp him up once you get, down the season, closer to playoffs, when it really matters, when you have to run the ball, then maybe we see him getting that 20 touches a season. Because you did mention, with health, you want to keep Derrick Henry healthy as he's older, as he's, has a lot of wear and tear on his body. But on the outside, I like the weapons. Zay Flowers showed that, he can be an explosive guy, make some plays down the field. Mark Andrews continues to be Lamar's favorite target when he's healthy, likely behind him. Solid option from the tight ends. Can we see some of these guys step up in the receiving room? It feels like, Rashad Bateman has buzz around his name every single offseason, like every single preseason training camp. It's like Rashad Bateman is ready to take the step. We just going to have to see it. But Lamar Jackson and what this offense can do, I think they'll be able to be super competitive. They'll win a bunch of games. I don't know if I'll give you best division, but I'll definitely give you one of the top competitive divisions. So I like this Ravens team. I think, once again, they're another one of these teams that they're expecting to go and compete for an AFC championship like they did last year. They just got to put it all together. So, yeah, I think the Ravens can get 12 wins. I do think it'll be a competitive division, and I got them winning the AFC North back-to-back.
One thing I did forget to mention is that Lamar and Derrick Henry now, with the ability of Lamar running the football, is going to open up some holes because you're going to have the edge rushers. They're going to have to sit when you get into that option game, and the ability of Lamar keeping it play action and rolling out his abilities. So it will open up some holes for Derrick Henry he's probably never had in his career in Tennessee.
And Lamar has shown that he's a capable passing quarterback as well. So even though you have the run threat of, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, you can't just, put 8, 9 in the box and just hope you're going to beat the Ravens, because Lamar Jackson has the ability, he has the talent to beat them with their arm. So it's going to be tough. The way it's looking right now, it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of offense. And then if those teams do come out, the dime packages and drop 8 in coverage, you got, Derrick Henry handoff right there. You got Lamar Jackson, like, good luck trying to tackle him in the open field. So a lot of ways I think this Ravens offense can be successful this upcoming season.
Yeah, a lot of quarterbacks I don't like in that division, but got to show love to the 561 hometown hero, man. Now, season award predictions, man. We got MVP, offense, defensive players of the year, offensive and defensive rookie of the years as well, man. Let's jump into MVP, man. Went down the easy route with this one, I will say, man. I'm going to go ahead and pick Patrick Mahomes. Last year, obviously, not the greatest year of Mahomes' career. I think now with the weapons on the outside, what he has is 10x better than last year and what he was dealing with on the offensive side of the ball. I still think Travis Kelce can still be a top 3 tight end in this league. So a lot of things, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, end of the day, but those weapons on the outside you add for Pat Mahomes, I think it's going to be a different storyline this year than it was last year, and it's going to go back to, the Chiefs 2, 3, 4 years ago when it was Pat Mahomes laying up the scoreboard and their ability to put up points. So I got Pat Mahomes, quarterback award. Wanted to be different, maybe pick a skill position player, but we it's not happening, man. Let's you go for 2K Russian CMC or someone else.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Patrick Mahomes is kind of the easy layup pick. I do agree. Like, I think it's kind of going under the radar, like how much better this offense can really be this season. Like, it was hard to watch last year, and Mahomes still somehow made it work. Like Kadarius Toney was getting legit snaps last season. He's cut
selling
now.
Games.
Yeah, and now he's not on the team. She Rice, it's looking like his off-field issues probably won't affect him this season. Maybe next year, whatever. But this upcoming season, he's going to be on the field. You look at Xavier Worthy, mention him, first-round draft pick, speed. He's going to be able to stretch the field. Mahomes is going to be able to hit him on all those deep balls. Travis Kelce, he's back. The connection they have is, second to none. So, yeah, Patrick Mahomes MVP is a very safe bet. But I feel like, throughout this awards and even, the rankings and stuff, I've been very fair. I haven't had a lot of Eagles bias, so I'm going to put my first Eagles bias here on this pick. Give me Jalen Hurts, man. NFL MVP. Offensively, wasn't the best year last year. I've, been on record saying wasn't the biggest fan of what was going on with the Eagles offense last season, but I think that changes, and it could be for the worse, or it could be Jalen Hurts winning MVP. Jason Kelce retiring, he was kind of the one that was in charge of making all the checks, all the protections. He was basically the quarterback pre-snap of that offense. Well, he's gone, so now all that goes on Jalen Hurts, and we're going to find out if he's able to, handle that responsibility. Kellen Moore bringing in that offense that he has so much success with in Dallas, and, before Herbert got injured last season, it was a solid offense. They were putting up some numbers. So now you look at all the weapons around Jalen Hurts. A.J. Brown, we know how good he is. Devontae Smith is a legit number one receiver in this league. You trade for Jahan Dotson, first-round talent receiver. I believe has the most touchdown receptions in his draft class. I think that was the stat I saw. He has more touchdowns than Chris Olave. I believe Garrett Wilson was in that draft class as well. A few other guys. So
a lot of receivers with zero quarterbacks, right? Dotson, Wilson, exactly. Olave.
Yeah, but Dotson hasn't had that many quarterbacks either. So kind of
that's what I'm saying. There. All three of those guys.
Exactly.
I feel bad for that whole class.
So, and now he's going to be a wide receiver 3. You're not expecting number one numbers from him. You mentioned, the O-line, tight end, Dallas Goedert, running game. Now that Saquon's here, he brings, an element I don't think Jalen Hurts has had next to him in the backfield. Where you look at Miles Sanders and then Swift last season, 2 good starting running backs. But, you see what those guys have done once they left Philly. Not too much there to be desired.
Miles Sanders back up.
Yeah, he's like 3rd string now in the Panthers. So, I just think Jalen Hurts, fully healthy now, came out and said for the first time in the press conference a couple weeks ago that he was banged up last season. Last year he didn't want to talk about it, kind of kept things under wrap, was behind closed doors. It just didn't seem like he was himself. So far this offseason, during training camp, only 1 interception came the last day of practice. I know it's training camp practice stat. It doesn't really matter, but he's been super efficient, taking care of the ball, moving a lot better. And in this offense, I think it'll be a lot better. It'll force him to make reads. We'll see a lot more movement, a lot more upside on this offense. And I think Jalen Hurts has the capability. We saw, how he played the last time. He had a really good offensive mind in Shane Steichen. How were they able to use his legs and what he does best in terms of making the quick reads and hitting those playmakers down the field, giving guys opportunities. I think he grows off of that, and I think he has another really successful season here in Philadelphia. So I'm going on the upside. My bias pick, Jalen Hurts, NFL MVP.
Well, for the awards, I didn't go any type of bias because you mentioned earlier Myles Garrett, DPOY, obviously, but we're going to move on to OPOY before we get on the defensive. You might not like this one. I'm going with the second highest paid receiver in the NFL in CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys. Listen, you mentioned it last year. Defense is locked on to CeeDee, throwing everything they had at him. Still amazing year from CeeDee Lamb. Able to put up tremendous numbers. One of the best receivers on the outside. Still no help. Can the Cowboys do it? He gets paid. I think he comes out and balls out. Gets OPOY. There's really no other option for the Cowboys and Dak Prescott on the outside and receivers who he's going to be throwing to. He's going to be getting his targets. A lot of receptions. Probably leads the league in receptions for sure. So I think CeeDee gets it done. OPOY is going to Dallas, and Jerry Jones, GM of the year. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't hate it, man. CeeDee Lamb, you just mentioned, he got paid, super talented receiver, and watching him twice a year, pretty much kill the Eagles. Not surprising. I mean, he did burn me last year in fantasy, started horribly to the season. I trade him away, and he becomes the best receiver in the league. So, yeah, that one's on me. But listen, man, we're back invested. So I got some CeeDee Lamb stock. I like CeeDee Lamb. Should have taken him instead of Jalen Reagor. Now he went before Reagor, but
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb was definitely one of the guys that I thought maybe we could go up and try to get. So yeah, I've always been a fan of CeeDee Lamb. But I'm going receiver also, but this is kind of a zag. You took a division rival for me, so I'm gonna do the same for you, man. I got Garrett Wilson.
Did you have this
This is what I picked.
Wow.
I got Garrett Wilson, and we've seen the flashes all throughout his career. I believe he has the most receptions and yards for a Jets receiver through his first 2 years. Just under 2,000 yards. I think it's like 1,995 or something like that. Like literally just under 2,000 yards. And he just really hasn't scored that many touchdowns. So you look at someone like Aaron Rodgers, if he's fully healthy, is the big thing with everything for the Jets. If Rodgers is fully healthy, I think Garrett Wilson has the ability to put up Devontae Adams type numbers. It's kind of like, that connection they had back in Green Bay, but with the ball in the air, we've seen the crazy catches he's made, run after the catch ability. I think he's an elite route runner, super elusive. And like I said, man, Aaron Rodgers targets his number one receivers. So if Rodgers is upright in the pocket, especially now, later in his career, he's not going to move as much. He's not going to try to, hold the ball and extend the play as much. He's going to be looking to get that ball out of his hands quick and go through his reads. So Garrett Wilson being the number one option on majority of those reads, being able to get open as good as he does, I think he'll get a lot of targets, a lot of receptions, a lot of yards, and I think he'll find the end zone, maybe 11, 12 times, put up big numbers there. And I think this Jets offense, this Jets teams can have some success. So, you always want to find somebody on a team that's winning in the competitive, looking for a playoff Super Bowl push. So I think that could fit the Jets mold here. And I just think you saw what he was able to do with, the Zach Wilsons of the world. And you can just go on and name all the other horrible quarterbacks he's had thrown to him. So, yeah, you give Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, I think he can put up Offensive Player of the Year numbers.
Yeah, so I didn't even realize I did this. DPOY originally had Micah Parsons. I think he's got a better chance of winning the award than CD does. But since I already made CD, went ahead, called an audible on my DPOY. I got Max Crosby, the Las Vegas Raiders, winning it this year. You add Christian Wilkins to that O-line, another guy that defenses have to worry about. Finally, there's some help with Max Crosby. He's kind of been a one-man wrecking crew his whole career. I think he gets it done. The Raiders, obviously, question marks on the offensive side of the ball, but there hasn't been any question marks with this D-line, Wilkins and Crosby. We've heard it, they're the first guys in the facility every morning before everyone else. These two guys, I think they're hungry, and between him and Wilkins' ability to stop the run and get after the quarterback as well from the interior, he's, if not, top 3, top 5 at doing so in the NFL. And then you got Max Crosby paired up with Wilkins. It's only going to have more pressures for Crosby and more sacks at the end of the day. So Max Crosby, DPOY of the Las Vegas Raiders.
I like that pick. I like Max Crosby. I think he's one of those true game wreckers on the edge, one of those elite guys. I just don't think this Raiders team will be good at all. And it's going to be hard, I think, for him to have a lot of success on that team. So, he might be able to put up the numbers, but a lot goes into, an award. So I think Max Crosby has DPOY talent. Just don't know if the team and everything else around him will be up to par. I'm surprised. I guess, I'm the Myles Garrett supporter of this show, the biggest Myles Garrett fan here.
I couldn't do it, man.
That's who I got winning Defensive Player of the Year. I think he has the, back-to-back DPOY talent. We've kind of seen what he's able to do. You've sung his praises all throughout this show. Even, myself talked about how good he is. Elite athlete. Like, some of the stuff he does on the field is just like, you just don't even know what you're looking at. Like, the crossover, walking up to the line, bouncing around. And it's not like he's a one-trick pony. He's efficient in stopping the run as well. The strength to get off blocks, disrupt plays. I mean, watching Myles Garrett, it literally looks like a different type of athlete, different type of player out there on the field in the NFL with some of the best athletes in the world. So, kind of like I mentioned in my Browns analysis, I'm not too high on Deshaun Watson. So if this Browns team is going to win a bunch of games again, like they did last year, it's going to be on this defense led by Myles Garrett, who I think can, have another 10-plus sack season. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets up there, near the 15, 16, 17 range. He's that guy, has that kind of talent. I think he can hit 20 sacks as well. Just kind of all comes down to right place, right time. But, yeah, he has the talent. I think he also has the talent around him. And I think kind of unlike the Raiders where Max Crosby can't really have everything around him go well, I think Myles Garrett and this defense can be a good enough unit, unlike the Raiders, to where they can win a couple games, get some buzz going around them, and Myles Garrett can go back to back.
Yeah, I mean, last person to do it, obviously, AD, and then I think before that was J.J. Watt.
Yeah, and I think Myles Garrett has the talent. He's up there with those guys.
Yeah, definitely. Last year, Titans game, him moving side to side and bringing 2 tight ends, forcing a delayed game. No one else in the league that does that, but I decided to dial back a little Browns bias because I had him first in that North Division. I thought that was a little enough for this
You ran
week.
out of all of your Browns bias. There you go. I saved mine for the awards. You used yours in the season rankings.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Myles Garrett, he'll get it done though, man. Look for him to stay healthy. He slows down towards the end of the year in terms of sacks because always so banged up. But one thing to look out for: offensive rookie of the year, man. College football kicked off last week. A lot of these guys we've seen in their respective colleges, man. I'm going with the Ohio State Buckeye, man. Marvin Harrison over there in Arizona. Kyler Murray, they're saying he's looking good over there in Arizona. Can he get back to, the K1 when he first came into the league, lighting up, putting points up and looking like, the future of the NFL, running around the pocket, making, scrambling plays, throwing downfield, the mini Patrick Mahomes. I wouldn't go that far, but type plays of him, his ability to throw on the run, awkward positions, everything like that. Marvin Harrison, the most true cut, best receiver that's coming into this league in a very long time. He's got the hands, he's got the route running, he's got everything. There's a couple guys you could pick here, but I think Marvin Harrison, he could get it done, definitely. And I think with Kyler Murray, being back healthy, locked in this year, he's got a good, capable quarterback. Arizona, they could get it done, and Marvin Harrison wins himself Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I don't hate that pick at all. I think Marvin Harrison is definitely top 2, top 3 choice for me. And, like you mentioned, Kyler Murray back healthy. You kind of saw some of the success. He had that one season with D-Hop when he was healthy. So we know Kyler Murray is capable of supporting a legit wide receiver 1. And like you mentioned, coming in, Marvin Harrison has all the talent in the world to be that for the Cardinals. So that's not a bad pick. But
quarterback award is
who I'm going with, and it pains me being an Eagles fan. But I think Jaden Daniels wins it, man. I think he does with the Commanders. And going into the draft throughout the whole process, I thought Jaden Daniels was good. But, as the process kind of went along, watching him play in the preseason and kind of, just looking at what he's accomplished throughout his career, it's kind of crazy, just how much football he's played and how good he's been at LSU this last season. It's kind of insane. He put up better numbers than Joe Burrow in 2019. Coming in to this past season, I think he threw for 5,000 yards and rushed for over 1,000, something crazy like that. He had a bunch of touchdowns. Jaden Daniels was the LSU offense. Now, he did have, 2 first-round draft picks on the outside that he was throwing to, but listen, Joe Burrow had the same exact thing. When you look at Justin Jefferson,
weapons.
Yeah, when you look at Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. So, yeah, I think Jaden Daniels, just his ability to run the ball and throw, he'll have the big highlight plays. Caleb Williams, I think, is also, really talented and will have some of the highlight plays, but he doesn't have the rushing upside that Jaden Daniels has. So, he'll have a play where, he's rushing for 40 yards and then, 2 drives later, he's throwing his fade. He likes that inside fade, that slot fade. So, he's throwing a 50, 40-yard fade to Terry McLaurin down the field. He has that elite touch down the field, and I think he has 1,000-yard rushing upside. The only question marks I do have for him is injury, because like if you go and look, like he takes some crazy hits. Like
he's that one meme of him just getting spun around.
Like there's literally a highlight clip of him just getting rocked on multiple runs. So you definitely want to see him, slide or run out of bounds and not take these insane hits. And unfortunately, there was some flashes during preseason. He got hit a couple times in a preseason game on one of his drives. So you want to see him clean that up. You want to see him stay healthy because, he's not the biggest guy in the world. But talent-wise and in terms of not having much here to work with outside of Terry McLaurin, I think Brian Robinson's a solid running back, but I think Jaden Daniels will have a lot on his shoulder. He'll have a lot on his plate. I don't think he'll have, the best rookie season of all time, but I think he'll have a good enough season, and he'll make a lot of big splash plays and maybe win, 1 or 2 games for the Commanders that they should lose. I think he has all the talent to, have that offensive rookie of the year upside.
Solid pick. I definitely can see off, rookie of the year's quarterback sort of award, sort of like MVP. Defensive rookie of the year, man. It kind of pains me to say this. The guy out of Florida State, Jared Verse, on the edge for the Los Angeles Rams. Shout out Georgia Tech, by the way. Getting a dub over there in Ireland. But Jared Verse with his size on the outside, being an edge rusher, he's lengthy. He's able to get it done. I think, there's a couple guys you could go when it comes to defensive rookie of the year, but I like Verse. He's impressed in camp. A lot of guys say he's the real deal for an edge rusher. And, he's got the frame. He's got the fit. Just can he put it together for the Rams? Obviously not the strongest defense, but defenses are going to be locked in on him most likely. We'll see if he can make some plays, dial up some different pass rushes. But I got Verse winning it. I think he's one of the most true edge rushers in this draft that came out.
Yeah, not a bad pick. We kind of talked about it before this podcast that it's probably going to be a defensive lineman that wins this award.
Yeah,
9 times out of 10. So I went Dallas Turner with the Vikings.
Solid.
Has that top-tier pedigree coming from Alabama. We saw, Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama kind of have some of the production. He wins it last year. Alabama's a factory in terms of defensive linemen, defensive talent, just talent in general.
Yeah.
So all these guys produce. And when you look at Dallas Turner, I think he has that elite size and athleticism and the tools to be super productive. Going to a scheme with Brian Flores, we touched on earlier. He's a guy, he'll coach you up. He'll get some, pointers. And if he can learn some of those pass rush moves to put along with that athleticism, that size, and those tools, I think he has the potential to be one of those 10-plus sack guys. Kind of a good replacement there on the D-line for the Vikings after losing Danielle Hunter to the Texans. I think Dallas Turner has the opportunity to step in and kind of fill that role. So I think he can have some success early on and win Defensive Rookie of the Year for the Vikings.
Yeah, great pick. That's going to wrap up our season awards, man. Division predictions as well. NFL season just about 9 days away.
Days away. Next week, we'll be doing our Week 1 predictions.
Yeah, Week 1 pick'ems, man. 0-2 so far in goal-to-go history when it comes to the pick'ems and predictions, but I think the writing on the wall is a little different this year. It's a get-back season.
For your sake, I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, you got any last comments, takes, topics, anything like that, man?
No, covered it all, man.
Excited.
Postseason, or not postseason, the preseason behind us, regular season right around the corner.
Yep, first game matchup is going to be a good one for the books for sure.
Yeah, I think
MVPs.
Ravens, Chiefs on Thursday, right? Yeah.
Go ahead, lock in your futures bet. Cleveland Browns Super Bowl champs.
What was that, plus 3,000 odds?
I think it was plus 25 on the Hard Rock, but we'll see. Just jokes. Go pod, man. TikTok, everything like that. Go YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all streaming platforms. And until next week, man, we'll be back with our week 1 pick'ems, man. Peace.